Today, former England rugby captain Chris Robshaw opens up on the tragic loss of his father, turning World Cup heartbreak into a catalyst for personal growth, and tells us how he's completely changed his approach to mental health. I'm Spencer Matthews, and you're listening to Untapped, where incredible athletes and inspirational people show us how we can all untap the potential within us. Let's get untapped with Chris Robshaw. Chris, welcome to Untapped.
Thank you for having me. No, it's brilliant to be here.
It's a real pleasure. Rugby's always been on in our house, and we're big fans of yours. So thank you for taking the time to actually come into the studio. It means a lot to us.
Yeah, like I said, honoured to be here, honoured to share some thoughts, a bit of my journey, and let's see how we go.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Talking of your journey, you unfortunately lost your father when you were very young, 5 years old. You were raised by your mother. Can you tell us a little bit about how that early grief or kind of rage played a part in your early game?
Yeah, so we're into the deep stuff straight away, eh?
Yes, sorry, if that's okay. Sorry, trying to kick off the interview with a bang here,
yeah,
Chris.
Exactly. Look, in all seriousness, I lost my father when I was 5, had a heart attack. Yeah, it was tough. My mum raised us, good support around us, family, uncle, aunt, strong grandma who kept us in our place. But yeah, look, it was tough. It was tough. And I think at that age, you don't really understand. I was very much in that middle age where probably my younger brother didn't know what was going on. My older brother could probably just about understand. And I was just kind of around being like, why are people upset? Why is obviously your father not come home? And it made me very frustrated. It made me quite angry. Probably, if I'm honest, didn't deal with it in the right way. And sport became a massive escape for me. Sport became like a real happy place. I think in rugby, obviously, as you get a little bit older, it is a physical thing, isn't it? It's a physical thing. And as a little kid with pent up aggression, you can be physical in a legal and safe way. And for me, that was it, because I didn't enjoy being in the classroom. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to play sport. Whatever that sport was. And for me, there's definitely times now when I look back and I've got 2 kids myself. And I'm actually at the age now, or probably a year or 2 off, where my father actually died. And I think, you know what, how young I am. And I think you're probably similar. How young you are, young family, and how tragic that would be. For me, it definitely gave me that a little bit of a chip on my shoulder as well when I was playing and performing, and you always wanted to go out there and still make them proud and all that kind of stuff, for sure.
So he was a young man.
Yeah, he would have been 40, 41, yeah.
Was he a healthy person?
Yeah, he was. He was a fit guy. He'd run a marathon, played golf, played football, quite active. And just out of nowhere, really.
Wow.
Unfortunately, yeah, his father had a heart attack later on in life. But yeah, just to be taken down by that, it was, horrendous. And I speak to a lot of people now, and one of my best friends actually lost his father quite recently, who would be probably almost 70. And my cousins lost their dad. And look, there's no good time to lose a parent or anyone in life, is there? And I think we deal with them all in different ways. As you get older, you've had, of course, longer with them, but it might hit you harder because you have built those relationships. Whereas for me, it definitely hit me as a youngster, and then you learn to, not in a bad way, but deal with it. But it would have been massively and a lot harder for my mum, who obviously picked it all up, working, 3 kids. And don't get me wrong, we weren't good kids. We were very lucky, but we were quite boisterous. And like I said, we used to bounce around a little bit. And my mum always says this story about, she went to a friend's party or whatever, and she heard one of the mums say, "Put away the valuables, the Robshaws are coming over." And it was like, cheers, just what you want to hear. So, yeah, she always reminds us of that. So, it was tough.
On this show, we talk a lot about energy, not just having it, but how you use it. And one thing I've learned from the world of endurance sport is that energy isn't something you waste. It's something you master. Hive brings that same mindset into your home, putting you in control of your energy every single day. Everyone knows them for their smart thermostats, but Hive has evolved into something greater, eco-tech that helps generate, manage, and use cleaner energy. And with solar, you can get the sun to work for you, turning sunlight from your roof into greener energy. It's about generating your own power. helping to lower bills and creating the freedom to live life on your terms. And with the Hive app, you have the power to track, manage, and optimize your energy in one place. Clear, simple, and built around you. And here's the best part. Anything you don't use, you can sell back to the grid, meaning you'll get energy companies to pay you. Hive puts that power directly in your hands. Your home, your energy, and your future. Hive. Know your power. Visit hivehome.com to find out more. Subject to survey and suitability, output varies by season and may not cover all electricity usage. Paid for surplus requires an eligible SEG tariff. Savings vary by home and usage. I'm one of those people who used to think that I knew my body quite well until I started using Whoop. I began to see exactly where I was overtraining, under-recovering, and basically sabotaging my own progress without realizing it. I've been wearing this particular new Whoop every day since it launched a few weeks ago, and the insights have been amazing. The latest thing that I'm hooked on is their new health span feature. It's not just about adding years to your life, it's about adding good years. Whoop Health Span gives you your true physiological age and shows whether you're aging faster or slower over time, powered by 9 science-backed metrics like sleep quality, VO2 max, and lean muscle mass. It's like having a crystal ball for your long-term health, but one that you can absolutely do something about today. And the best bit is that you can try the brand new Whoop and get access to features like health span, pace of aging, along with all of their core metrics, absolutely with zero risk. They'll send you the brand new Whoop 5 for free. Your first month is free. And if you're not sold by day 29, you get all of your money back. Free to buy, free to try. Just hit the link in the description. If you're enjoying this conversation, please do me a favor. Hit subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. It only takes a few seconds, but it really helps the show. And it means that we can keep bringing you incredible guests. Now, back to the conversation. You, we don't know each other well, of course, but you seem like a really humble, kind of modest, lovely man.
You're very kind.
No worries. Do you, where does confidence come into your game? When did you realize that you had, extraordinary talent for the game? When you first put on that England shirt, did you feel at home, like you belonged? Or was it an accumulation of all kinds of exciting and interesting times in your journey? How did that moment feel when you got the call up to represent the country?
You know what, it's interesting. One of my biggest drivers was I never felt I was good enough. Never felt good enough. Always wanted to be better. Always wanted to have a better training session, a better game. And always felt I had to improve. So I never felt comfortable there. Do you know what I mean? I always felt like there was someone trying to get a shirt I was wearing or the position or captaincy or player, whatever it be. So I always felt I had to get more out of myself. And for a player, which I wasn't the biggest, quickest, probably most skillful, but I stayed there for a long time. And there was always a saying where it's hard to get in the room, but it's even harder staying in the room. And for me, I always remember I got called up to England camp once when I was younger, before I properly played. And I got called up late to a training camp in Portugal with the England squad. And it was amazing, of course, very nervous. And I always remember I was a young player, early 20s probably. And the first day we had fitness testing. And look, no one wants to do fitness testing. It's horrendous. It makes everyone feel sick. And you're being judged. Everything's being judged. And it's so quick. And I remember England training and all the senior guys weren't doing it. It was just young guys doing the fitness testing. And I lost respect there and then for those players, because I was like, look, they're not, yes, they might be a bit sore, they might be a bit tired, but they're not the ones out there doing it. And from that moment, I said, you know what, I'm never going to be that player. Throughout my whole career, if I'm fit, I'm going to train and I'm going to be there at the beginning, the end. I'm going to make sure I turn up. I'm going to give it my all that kind of stuff. And yes, of course, there's days we have bad days. But I'm not going to have a little kid, or I wasn't a little kid, but a young player coming through thinking, why is he not doing it? Why should he have a rest? So I thought, you know what, that inspired me. So throughout my whole career, I made sure that every training session I'd be out there. I think those little things play, especially as you become a captain and all that kind of stuff. You don't want that slight doubt in other players in your team's head. And I think whenever you're captain and whenever you ask someone to do something, they have to know you're willing to do it yourself as well, not just because you can't be asked. So for me, that was a massive driver for me as I went throughout my England times, my Harlequins time. And even when I'm out there training now, I still need to train mentally.
So you'd say that it's safe to say that you have always wanted to lead by example, even prior to being the leader?
Yeah, I think so. You want to you want to try and be the best, don't you? You want to try and get the most out of your body. And look, it's interesting because you always want to. You think you'll do the same thing and get the same result, but you can have good days, bad days. You need good people around you to help you, to really pick you up. But yeah, look, I remember I was we had a pre-season game with Harlequins. I would have been again 20 probably. So again, a bit of variety. And I got named captain of the squad. It was very much the second team that played, and I played really well. I captained school teams, but it's different when you come up and captain men, isn't it? It's especially a young guy. And then I went on tour with England. We went on tour with England. We went to Australia and New Zealand to play the Maoris. And I got named. I wasn't going to play in the test side, but we had some midweek games back then as well. And I was named the first game midweek captain. Martin Johnson called me into his room and said, "Look, we want you to be captain." I was like, "Oh my God, they want me to be captain." I was so nervous. There was guys who were, like I said, 10, 15 years older than me, more experienced than me, played international. I'd never played international at that point. So I basically became the midweek captain of that trip, which was so nerve-wracking and probably something I never really thought about. Like I said, I captained a bit of school. I'd been a bit of a leader. But really, I'm quite introverted. I'll bring myself out to step up and talk, but I'm not naturally that type of guy. And it's interesting because you meet a lot of sports people and people at the top of the game like you do, I'm sure. And my wife always says, whenever we meet another captain or someone who's at that kind of level, they're like, "You captains are like all the same. You're all the same. You're not the loudest ones out there. You're not the ones in the middle of the team room mucking around and doing all that stuff. But you're all pretty stern. You're pretty stern and straight laced," she says. But for me, look, it was an amazing experience. And then, went back to Harlequins. I captained Harlequins at the age of 23. And that was tough because I got officially made captain then. And then I was captain guys, internationals above me. Some guys who gave me a bit of a tough time. And I said, you know what? I captained very different ways as well. I captained the club at 23. I captained them again at probably 32, 33 as well. 4 years and another 2-year gap as well. And I always remember, you know what? When I was a young captain, it was all very stick orientated. If you were late, if you gave penalties away, everything was fitness. And we did fitness together. It wasn't just you, or I'd make you stand on the side and the rest of the team would do fitness. And I got to the point where I was like, this is the way I knew how to do it.
That still works. So the person that made the foul gets to sit it out?
Well, some people it does. Some people are like, brilliant, I don't have to do it. Just keep giving away penalties. And it was at that stage where it worked at the time and we were very successful. But then I look back to when I was 32 and I came into captaincy again. And it's very much about an arm around the shoulder rather than stick punishments. And I'd evolved. And I think when I was a young captain as well, like I said, I had some challenging characters. I was young. And I think I was an insecure captain, if I'm honest.
Why do you think that was?
Just I'd not done it. I felt people probably trying to want the captaincy or take it or all that kind of stuff. And I wanted to put my mark on it. And I think with leadership, it's an interesting thing because, and as you get more confident, you get more life skills, you go through the journey a bit, you trust the people around you, learn to delegate, you learn to trust the 10 to run the attack or someone else to do the defense and all that kind of stuff. And as you get more self-assured and confident in your ability, you believe in those people and they're good. They want the team to go in the right direction. They want the boat to go faster. Whereas the thing as a young captain, it's having that. And it's a huge thing which I see I do some talks in businesses and stuff. And you can often see young leaders because they feel threatened. They feel threatened that, if I take your idea, are they going to think you're better than me and you should be in my position? So it's almost a little bit like that. And as you get a bit older, you get confident, you get beaten by life a bit, don't you? You get beaten by life a bit, you come out the other side, you learn what's important. You learn to have the good people around you who can really help you.
When you were telling the story of Martin Johnson making you captain when you were away, you sounded kind of surprised. What is it that you felt, were the defining characteristics in you that made him choose you?
Yeah, it's an interesting one when I think back and look. And I think one of the biggest things And I tell young kids come up to me and parents say, well, look, what would you tell my kid, like, if they want to make it, if they want to do this? And I say, look, there are no shortcuts. There's no shortcuts to do well in life, whether that be business, music, sport, whatever you want to do. You've got to work hard. You've got to put the time in, but you've got to be resilient. You've got to have resilience. So I'd say if you can build your resilience, and it's unfortunately you have to go through things. You're going to have international sport as a roller coaster. You have these amazing highs and deep lows, and you've got to be somewhere in the middle. But for me, the biggest thing is you keep turning up. And yes, there'll be times when you turn up, you're happily bubby or you're giving out energy. And there's times where you turn up and you think, you know what, I've just got to get through. And I need my mate to be the one pushing me up and carrying me and giving me that hand today. But you're always there in the room, you know, like it's not easy to do. And I think for me, it was one of those things where I would be there. And I said earlier about turn up to train and being on it. And it's not always the big things. Yes, you want those players who are making those massive breaks all the time. But you also want people who are going to do their job consistently every day.
You carried the weight of the nation in 2015. Can you talk me through how that felt as somebody that had sacrificed so much?
The World Cup for me, 2015, was the best time I've ever had in an England shirt or professionally, and the worst time as well, if I'm honest. To lead your side to nation at a home World Cup, and you get to the stadium and there's billboards and there's tens of thousands of white shirts and it's the opening ceremony. It's the stuff you dream. It's beyond dreams as a kid, if we're honest. And to go there, win that first game, sing the anthem with your family there and everyone's streaming and win that game, it was amazing. It was amazing. Unfortunately, the week after, we played Wales, grudge game, and had a decision to make, and it didn't go to plan. End up losing the game. The week after, we played Australia, probably the best Australian side I've ever faced, and we lost that game. And you can imagine the change room after that is dead quiet. I mean, it's horrendous. And I remember going to a press conference, myself and Stuart Lancaster, the head coach at the time, pretty much both first in the room, 5 minutes after the final whistle, trying to hold back tears. You know what? Didn't want to cry in front of the media, had in 100 people with cameras, recorders, whatever it be, basically saying, why were you guys so shit? You've left the country down. You're all a disgrace, all that kind of stuff. It was dreadful. I remember we went back then on the bus, no words being spoken by anyone, got back to the hotel, and me and my wife Camilla, we just held each other and cried. And I imagine pretty much every player and their couples and partners and whatever probably did a similar thing. And I remember the next morning I woke up to an email from Sean Fitzpatrick, New Zealand rugby legend who was on the Harlequins board, so I got to know him a little bit. And he said, you know what, like nothing anyone can do or say at this point is going to make you feel better. But the sun will come up again. It might not be tomorrow, it might not be next week, it might not even be next month, but it will come up again and you will be okay. And then my wife took me and my best friends to the New Forest, hired a house in the middle of nowhere. And you know what? We ate and drank until we couldn't remember. And you know what? It might not have been the smartest thing to do, but it allowed me to forget, even if it was just for a short period. And then I went to Buckingham Palace, all the coaches and captains to meet the late Queen. Only time I'd ever met her. Amazing lady. Myself and Stuart scurried off. Didn't want to be there. It was horrendous. You could feel the pity from the other players and captains and all that kind of stuff. And I remember there was a South African coach called Heineken Meyer at the time. And as I was leaving, he I didn't really know the guy. He grabbed me by both shoulders, just looked me square in the eye, and just said, "You're too strong to let this affect you." And then look, if I'm honest, that is the best form of leadership I've ever seen, because two of them, my wife, of course, knew me, but they didn't really know me. But they reached out to me. They could tell someone is going through something and hurting. And for me, that really resonated, because a load of international captains reached out. Strauss, Alistair Cook, Kevin Sinfield, these type of guys who had been in the arena and had a similar experience. And for me, when my family and friends were all like, "Oh, it's all right, you'll be okay," all that kind of stuff, they mean well, and it's brilliant, but they don't really know what it's like to be written on the front and back of papers, to be spoken about a podcast saying how bad you were. I remember I went to the post office to, I don't know, drop something off. And the cashier was like, "You guys were shit, weren't you?" And I was like, just kind of post my letter, and I just felt like I couldn't escape it. And I explained to people that.
Thanks for the feedback though.
Well, exactly. When you're in that, it's almost like you're in a fog. It's in a fog and you can't quite see out, and you don't want to see out. You want your head down, you feel embarrassed, you feel shame. And you just kind of, go about your business. And just over time, it just gradually fades. But for me, I say to people now, look, if you know someone's struggling, don't wait for their partner to pick up the piece. Don't wait for their boss to pick up the piece. Say someone in business has lost a sale or had a bad day. Don't wait for them to go home. You be the one to go and say, you know what, let's go for a coffee, let's chat. And then it's on them. Because then that was the other side. You know, I didn't open up fully. People were trying to help. I became a bit of a recluse. And then I remember we played Wales in the Six Nations, one of the teams who knocked us out. First game back at Twickenham, probably 80% of the squad was still from that World Cup. And I remember all week it was about revenge. You know, we've got to get these boys back. And we won the game, but just. And I remember we were doing a lap of honour, thanking the fans. And I just broke down in tears. And I ran in the change room, all this bravado stuff. I didn't want people to see me. Ran in and I couldn't stop crying for it. Never had anything like this in my whole life. Couldn't stop crying for about 15, 20 minutes. Players were consoling me, the coaches. A lot of them came up and said, you know what, we didn't realise how much this affected you. And because I didn't share it, I bottled it all up and it wasn't good. And now I think, you know what, if I go through this in a different way or happen again, I would have dealt with it in such a different light. And try to be open and speak to people and all that kind of stuff instead of bottling it all in. And then, it all came out. And it was tough, you know.
I've got so many questions for you after that incredible speech you just gave.
Okay.
What is, just whilst we're on that, what do you think that was? So that eruption of emotion, that unbottling of the feelings.
I just felt I hadn't really processed it. And actually, I'll keep going. The end of that year, we actually toured Australia. The other team knocked us out. England had never won a series down there. We won the first game. The second game was my 50th cap. So I got to lead the guys out for the first time since being captain. I wasn't captain anymore. And the honour of leading the side out. And we won the games. We won the series. We went on to win the next game, but we won that game. I was man of the match. And then in the change room, Jason Leonard, the fun bus, the great man he is, presented me with my 50th cap, a little silver cap. And all the boys cheered. We had some beers. And it was almost like a little bit of closure. And I always say, look, the World Cup it's a scar I'll always wear. It's something I'm not proud of, but it's a scar that will always be on me. But it will fade a little bit over time. And for me, when I look back, and especially post at Wales, I just didn't process it. I didn't process it in the right way. Bottled it up. It put a lot of pressure on my relationship with my wife, my friends, family, teammates. And I actually remember at Harlequins, I was playing. I was going through the motions. I was good enough to get through games and all that kind of stuff. But I wasn't impressing. And I remember one of our coaches came up to me and said, "Look, enough's enough. You can get on the bus or get off it. Like you've had your mope, your sulk, and we know it's hard. But the team needs you now. The team needs you." And after that, sometimes I'd moped there, I'd kick stones on the floor and kick my heels and all that kind of stuff. And you need a bit of a wake up call. And that was someone else, someone different giving me a hand and saying, you know what, now it's your time to get back up. So look, so many people supported me, but in that, I just didn't process it. And it was just, like I said, I'd never had anything like that in my whole life. And just floods and floods of tears just came out.
Did you feel like you were being blamed kind of, was it all on you?
No, I always remember like Conor O'Shea, my coach, good friend now. Well, good friend, I suppose, what he was then. I remember speaking to him pre-World Cup, and he always says this. He says, look, when you come back, you're either going to be knighted or you're going to be Guy Fawkes. There's going to be no middle ground, which was obviously tough to hear, and it was true. It was true. There was no middle ground. And look, people supported me. And look, as captain and as leaders, you're that person, aren't you? You put your head up there. You take the good stuff, you take the bad stuff as well. But whatever it is, it's on you, like, so.
I suppose if you brush off the bad as well. So like if you hadn't bottled it up and moped, in your own words, and kind of been that guy who was deeply affected by it, then you would have been the guy that doesn't care. It's kind of, I was going to ask you where the balance is between being deeply affected by the loss or crashing out of the World Cup early and bouncing back to set a proper example as captain. Like, where's the line?
You know what? It's a really interesting one, because I think with sports people and stuff, people only ever see them on Saturday. They don't see people in the week, and people say, oh, they don't care, they're not trying, whatever it be. No one cares more than players. I guarantee you, after a game, you lose, you miss a tackle, they score, whatever it be, you're not sleeping till about 4 or 5 in the morning. You're playing it over and over in your head. You're thinking, and that week, if I miss that tackle, I'm going to do another 50 tackles, because I become obsessed with that. And that's what players are like. They're trying to get their body right. And in 2013, we went to Wales. Principality Stadium, amazing stadium. The roof was shut. We were hoping for a Grand Slam. They were hoping for a championship. Amazing game. We were probably a little bit young, naive, not really knowing the storm we were going into. And then we went down there. We got hammered. We lost 30 points to 3. We were poor. They ended up winning the championship. Again, the abuse comes, all that kind of stuff, especially in Wales. You get a little bit of stick. And I remember we went back to the hotel bar. And as I said, no one's going to be sleeping. Hotel bar in a little corner, just having a couple of beers, nothing crazy. And we had fans coming up to us, ripping their tickets up in front of us, throwing them at us, and saying, how dare you be down there drinking?
That's insane.
And that's what I mean. It's that balance where.
But that's what I find it so. Ben Stokes was in here recently saying a similar thing, that when you're being hit out the park for 6 repeatedly, that they're shit, or that they don't know what they're doing. And he was inviting people to come and do some nets with him. As I suspect these Welsh fans or English fans wouldn't want to be.
We had Tom Youngs, who was, I think he was ready to go. But in all seriousness, you need to somehow, look, we weren't, like I'm sure yourself, dancing on tables and all. But we were, look, we had a couple of quiet beers. And then, but I remember then that Monday. So it's funny, you go away with England, you're away for a month, 5 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it be. You get home on a Sunday, put your England bag in the cupboard, get your Harlequins bag out. Monday morning, you go back to Quins. So we'd just been battered again. We're in the press again, on social medias, all starting to kick off, all that kind of stuff. The next morning, I walked into Harlequins training back at the club, and I was captain at the time. It was hard being captain of club and country, because you've been away. And if you're honest, the international guys are probably the highest earners at the club. So you come back in, they're like, okay, now we need you. You need to get up front, get the guys going, all that kind of stuff. And I remember being in the gym Monday morning, I think it was 9 o'clock. And I was doing some weights with Joe Marler in our forward session. And I just said, what am I doing here? I've got to go home. And I literally just said, and he's like, go, mate. And as he probably would. And I just went. I sent a message to the coach. I just said, I can't be here today. I'll be here tomorrow. I just need to go home and just decompress a little bit. And I just couldn't be there. I just went. It's probably one of the only times I did it. And just mentally, I wasn't in the right space to be there. It's only when you come out the other side, you can look back and say, it wasn't that bad. But your shoulders get a bit broader, your skin gets thicker. And I think for me, the really valuable thing is learning from people who have been there. Like I said, Ben Stokes in his unfortunate over where he had a tough time, six sixes, was it? And it was, and again, when you hear from other people like that, that's what really, really helps, I believe.
Mental health has been a bit of a theme in this interview, and bouncing back from things, learning from people with experience, resilience. What's one lie do you think people are still told about what strength looks like? When you're tired, dehydrated, and struggling to concentrate, making smart decisions gets a little tough. That's why I take Vitals by Heights every single day. Initially, my team recommended it to me to keep me firing on all cylinders because it's not just about keeping my legs moving, it's about keeping my brain switched on and ideally making better life choices. Vitals are packed with 20 essential nutrients, including omega-3s for brain power, B vitamins for energy, and vitamin D3, all formulated by scientists and dietitians. And it just gives me that extra edge, better focus, sharper thinking, sustained energy, faster recovery, and deeper sleep. All in 2 capsules a day. Vitals are the smartest way to fuel your body and mind, so give it a go. Get 20% off your first month subscription at heights.com/untapped or use code UT20 at checkout.
You know, I come from the rugby world. The rugby world, which was very, very bravado, masculine, all those kind of toxic cliches, especially when I first started, toughen up. Whereas now I feel the sport has massively changed. And we're very much open and susceptible to stuff. We're sports psychologists. We want people to talk. And actually, when I left the club, we would have a situation where we would have sessions where we'd go into a room and you'd probably sit with your peers. I probably wouldn't expect a 17, 18-year-old to really open up to myself, but I would expect, my peers probably too. We'd all leave our phones outside because you know what they're like, and there'd be a sheet on the table. Have a couple of questions. Are you okay? Is there anything you want to share? Anything you want to talk about? So they're putting the frameworks in place, but then it's still the individual being brave enough to be like, you know what, I am struggling, or this has happened. And I remember there were definitely days where when I was captain the second phase, well, I would go into the club and say, you know what, look, I've had a rough night, or something's happened. I need my leaders to take today. I don't want to be the one talking. I want you to do it. And not in a bad way, I'd be there, but I just want to get through. And as a sports person, as work, there are those days you have where you don't want to be front and center. You just want to get through the day. And it's a bad thing to say, but it's true. And you put it on them. But I believe the sport is massively changing. There's been advocates in Joe Marler's come out brilliantly and spoken about his battles. And there are so many other players who are speaking about it because everyone sees these big, tough guys. They see them on a Saturday running into each other, but they don't see them in a week. They don't see that other side of it. But I think as a male, in the male society, we can do so much more generally. Unfortunately, as you would know as well, suicide's a bigger killer of young men. And it's horrible that is the case. And it's hard to really know. It's hard to know what's going on. And I think we can give each other the tools and that's a massive thing now. Look, I've got 2 young boys, and I would hate one day for them to get a phone call saying, you know what, X is no longer here anymore because I haven't given him the framework to be open, to talk about stuff, to share things with me that one day may cause him extra pressure, extra tension, whatever it be. You want to be there for him. So, in all honesty,
sorry to interrupt you. Do you think that's where it comes from? The kind of the bottling up of complicated feelings and the necessity to feel like a man.
Yeah, I think the world's for a young person now, the world's a complicated place, isn't it? You look at social media, and I was lucky enough to grow up and go through kind of schooling with no social media, no smartphones, and all that kind of stuff. And it's tough for them, isn't it? Coming through, and again, it's trying to give them the tools and to express themselves. And I'm not sure how old your kids are, but mine are at the stage 4 where they don't fully understand. They get frustrated, they get angry, all that kind of stuff because they can't quite get it yet. And hopefully I'm sure that will change. But it's just being there for them and making sure that, you know, if there's an issue, you can come and talk, right or wrong. Come and tell me, we'll deal with it together and all that kind of stuff. Because you're going to do some good things and you're going to have some great times, but I'm sure you're going to make some mistakes along the way as well. And hopefully they do, because that's part of learning. But as long as they know you're always there for them, and that's an important thing.
What finally made you ask for help? You've spoken before about feeling depressed.
Yeah, I think, look, my wife's been really good, amazing at helping me with that kind of stuff. And like I said, her mum is a psychotherapist, and whether that be sports psychologist. And I think a lot of it also, it's just getting more confident, more self-assured. And like I said, as a young player, and you always felt you weren't good enough. You didn't want to be that kind of thing. And as you get a bit older, you realise, you know what, you've done okay, and as I say, I look back with rose-tinted glasses a little bit, and you've learned from those experiences. You've had some good and bad ones, and amazing ones, and a lot of them have been played out in public. And then I think that's always a little bit harder to deal with. And now when you're learning, I think kids are a great leveler as well. And I've only had kids, like I said, the last 4 years, not massively when I was playing. And I always remember when the guys playing international rugby, after a game, or for a week, we lost, I'd be miserable for 4 days. You know what? I'd be grumpy. I'd, of course, be training, but I'd just be just a little bit negative, you know? And the kids change everything, don't they? Like, you can't be like that. You just have to crack on or go to the park and do whatever it be. And I remember players with kids would always just be, the next day they'd be playing in, I don't know, taking the kids to the soft play or playing in not the gym, but like the area with the crash mats and all that stuff. And just mucking around. You almost felt like, how are they laughing? How are they doing that? They should be grumpy. They should be sad. But it's a great way for them to get past things a little bit quicker.
What do you think is being done incorrectly now in the mental health space? Like, is there anything that, we as a podcast should be doing, or we as, medium-aged men should be doing?
Medium-aged, nice.
Yeah, middle-aged men.
Almost middle-aged, I believe. I haven't got a motorbike yet. So
yeah. I have a motorbike.
Okay.
I think I got it young enough to avoid it being called a midlife crisis.
Cool phase.
Yes.
Still in a cool phase.
I was just a cool young person. Yeah. I'd like to think anyway. But yeah, I think I've had a few conversations around men's mental health in here, and just wondering, as somebody with less experience than you in this space, what we could be doing to spread positive messages.
Look, I think more the same. Obviously, with your challenges, people doing challenging, raising awareness, the marathons, all that kind of stuff. I believe now it is very much it's out there, isn't it? There is help. Of course, people can always do more and be open, and but I think people do little things with their kids. And I'm no perfect parent or anything, but I try, and I'm probably on my phone too much around my kids and all that kind of stuff. And it's trying to learn about putting stuff like that away and learn from others. I think learn from others as well. Speak to people. But look, I don't think there's a secret remedy, is there? I think it's just trying to be open as possible. But as I said, it is tough for young people. But I think on podcasts, it's being spoken about. On TV, it is. I think on social media, it is as well now. And I think everyone feels it's a big thing we need to get behind. It's a big thing everyone needs to get behind. It's not just down to a couple of people. We all can do better. And also in the workplace as well, I believe big companies are starting to give people mental health days, or go work with a charity or something like that, just to give people a different perspective.
We've spoken a lot about, struggle and difficulty. What has been the greatest time in your career? Can you pinpoint a moment where you felt that it was all worth it?
You know what, look, people always say to me, do you want your kids to play sport or play rugby, whatever it is? And I would say, look, if they want to go for it, you know what, for me, rugby is, if I'm honest, look, it's given me the life I have. It's taken me around the world. It's to captain your country. I mean, to do that, to run out of Twickenham in front of 80,000 people cheering, singing the national anthem, it's hard to beat. Yes, there are some dips along the way, but that feeling, I always speak to people about, like, how do you replace that? How do you replace that? And that's the biggest thing. When people retire, when they move on, they cannot do. You can have amazing things, but unfortunately you have to say that chapter's over and look for other bits. But yeah, that bars, if you could bottle that bars, I imagine it's like a rock star running out, singing a song. If you could bottle that feeling and sell it, you'd be a very rich person, because that is the buzz you miss, and it gets the hairs on the back of your neck. And I don't miss rugby. I don't miss putting my head in someone's knees and doing 20 mauls on a Tuesday when my shoulders are sore and all that kind of stuff. I don't miss that. But I miss that run out. I miss that buzz. And even you can have the camaraderie. Like, we can go to the pub after or something like that and have a laugh, and you'll take the mick, and it's that kind of changing room feel. But it's that feeling of running out, and it's that bit of adrenaline in the stomach where you're thinking, we got to be on here. I hope we got it right. But yeah, it's an amazing feeling. But look, I love my rugby. To captain your country, to do something which not a lot of people have done. The pressure of it is It's why you get out of bed, don't you? When you're sore, when you're tired, when you're grouchy. It's a buzz which keeps you going.
That's so great. I love that thought of trying to kind of harness that feeling. It's I've not played rugby since university, but when I'm running sometimes and I'm looking for that kind of edge when things are getting rough, I sometimes I don't even do it on purpose. I'll visualize pretty much what you just said. Like, and it happens to be a rugby setting. I was never an incredible rugby player or whatever, but I sometimes visualize like chipping the fullback and like catching it and having that 80,000 people kind of just like roaring as you run towards the try line. And that gives you this, exactly as you described, that hairs on the neck stand up and you get that slight adrenaline surge, and then you find that kind of
it opens you up, doesn't it?
Yeah,
gets you going.
And it's funny because obviously I've never experienced that.
I'm
sure you have.
I'm still trying to do it. I get the kids in the garden, I can chip him, and then I can hopefully score.
Yeah, I might be all right chipping my kids. They're 6, 4, and 3. So
hopefully.
Yeah, I should be all right up against them. I'll hunt for that feeling next time I'm in Battersea Park. So we've touched on you aging through the ranks.
Like a fine wine.
Yes, indeed. Was there a moment in your like later stages of the game when, you know, a young player like you kind of appeared on the scene and did something maybe in a match or in training that made you really think like, whoa, there's a new wave of kind of player coming through?
Yeah, two probably. Two. Yeah, one when I was playing kind of heavily. A young guy called Marcus Smith.
Yeah.
So I remember Eddie Jones used to like going on training camps to Brighton College. And Marcus Smith was still at school. He was doing his A-levels. And in between doing his A-levels, he would come, put his bag on the side of the pitch, put his kit on, and come join the England team for training. And I remember this young guy. And look, Marcus isn't the biggest guy. And obviously at 17, 18, before he got into weights. And I remember, look, everyone knew this young guy's coming. You don't go too hard on him. He's a young guy.
Was he at school at the time? Yeah.
He was at school doing A-levels. He was in up 6th. Yeah. So he was there, like coming in his break time or whatever.
That's insane.
Trained with the England national side. And then I remember there was one of our second rows, like gave him a big shot, like hit him. And we're like, come on, mate, you don't do that. The next play, Marcus got the ball and ran around him. He had that much confidence just to bounce back up and get on with it. And I think that's what Marcus has. He has the confidence. He has the ability. And I was just like, this kid, he's going to be special. Just to not be phased. Imagine being an 18-year-old kid joining the England side. I get nervous now getting to train with them. Do you know, like it's that type of thing. And then the other time was when England, the Lions were away, so there was much of a change squad. Went to Argentina to train. And there was a couple of young flankers called Tom and Ben Curry and Sam Underhill. And I saw these guys and I'd heard a little bit about them. Didn't really know much about them. And then we started training. They would have been 18. The Currys would have been 18 and maybe Sam would have been about 20. Started training, the intensity is, and I just thought, fuck, I'm done. Because these guys are going to be taking my position very, very soon. And unfortunately they did. They were brilliant. The intensity in which they trained, their ability to learn. We did a fitness test together. They absolutely killed me.
Which you did though?
I did, yeah. I still was out there. Maybe I should have stood on the side. It would have been better. My credit wouldn't have got ruined. Maybe they had something, the older boys. But they were amazing. And I see what they've done. And I think whenever you start to get left out of a side, you're like a bit bitter. And now I look back and think, you know what, they were ahead of where I was. So, and look, they're both still going amazingly well. So yeah, for me, I saw that young breed come through and I was worried, I'm not going to lie. And yeah, unfortunately, post that, I didn't play too much, unfortunately.
What school was Marcus at? Do you remember?
Brighton College.
Brighton. So I should really know this, but from my school, I don't believe anyone went on to become an England player, probably because we weren't the best rugby school in the country or anywhere near it for that matter. But what is the typical journey of a young player? Like, so when do they get noticed? Because I'm assuming that, you know, Marcus will have been a superstar rugby athlete long before he was 18, or is that not the case?
Yeah, so he would have been in the academy, the Harlequins Academy at the time. So look, I got picked up by Quins when I was 17, was in the academy, which meant in school holidays, I would go into training camp at Harlequins. We'd all stay in this army barracks together because that's where we were training. We got kit with our initials on. It was amazing. We were part of the Quins setup, all that, got some protein. But they would look after us. They would monitor us, give us a bit of workout programs. And then post-school, I remember we joined Harlequins post-school at 18. My first contract was £4,000 a year. Thought, you know what, I've made it. I'm getting paid to play rugby. This is brilliant. And it was great. But even early on in my career, like, I remember thinking, you know what, I broke my foot twice in my first year. The following year, I broke my leg. The year after, I did my knee ligaments. And I was thinking, you know what, is this game really for me? And I remember calling my mum up. Well, look, when you're injured in sport, it's horrendous. It's the worst time. Calling my mum up in like tears and saying, you know what, I don't think my body's made for it, because your body has to be all right. And she gave me some typical motherly advice and just said, have you tried drinking more milk? And I was like, cheers, mum. And I actually did. And luckily, I went on to play a bit more after that. But it was,
that's what changed the game.
That's what changed the game. Milk is the way forward. But I think, look, there are a lot of players in all sports that retire early, don't quite make it. And your body does, it's a physical sport. Your body does have to be a certain, and you've got to be lucky as well. Got to be lucky, injuries at the right time. And possibly towards the end of my career, I got injured and never got back in the England side. So injuries play but then also, I think there was an injury when I got in the England side. So it's that kind of thing where you take a bit of luck when you can.
Would you guys have been playing schoolboy rugby at that time as well as the academy?
Yeah. So you would have been at school. So academy was only like holiday stuff.
So you guys get the ball and it's game over, really? Yeah. Like at that level?
Not quite. I went to a very good rugby school, went to Millfield. A couple of guys who went on to play as well. But you would go to Wales, the fun places, and play some teams down there with, I remember there was probably a guy you know in a different team called Alan Wynne-Jones. So you cross paths with a lot of good players. Colton's had people like Jordan Crane who did it. A lot of players who went on to play internationally, a lot of players who played for various clubs. And yeah, you look at some of those rugby schools now and the setup they have. You look at high schools in South Africa, the crowds they get, 500 people watching games, the chants, the intensity, the size of them. And that's why I'm glad I'm sat here with you now and not playing anymore, I think. Because even now I go to corporate things or catch up with some old mates who are still playing. And it's a neck. For me, you kind of lose it all round here, the shoulders, and you just don't train and eat as much as you once did. And I see them and I think I've shrunk. But yeah, the game, it just continues to move. And I think once you're in it, now I've stepped away, I think, you know what, like tackling this 20-stone guy running at you, yeah, I'd think twice about that now. But when you're in it, you're in it and you love it, it's part of it, and it's normal. Whereas you say to someone sat here saying, you know what, go and tackle him. And it's a bit like, yeah, I might give it a miss.
It could be said that rugby's not in the greatest place right now. What do you think could change to bring it back to its former glory?
Yeah, good question. Look, I was lucky. I played in a good period where stadiums were full and everything. And then, of course, COVID happened. And with a lot of sports and businesses, it affected it massively. Unfortunately, on the back of it, we lost a couple of clubs or 3 clubs around the place. But now stadiums are getting back on track. We got our Premiership final coming up, which is going to be a sellout again for the first time in a while. The product's awesome. And there's a lot of rumours about various different countries getting involved in the game. And I suddenly think, yes, we've had a massive struggle, if we're honest. Like I say, losing clubs, people speaking a little bit negative. What do we do? How do we get out of this? Because no rugby clubs make a profit, which is obviously a big struggle, whether that be lack of TV money or sponsorship or whatever it be. But I feel now, for the first time this season, that we are getting back on track. There is rumours about how do we reshape the game, whether that be a global league, whether that be a global a franchise league in England, whether that be joining forces with the Welsh, Scots, the French, whatever it be. But I think now there are ideas and there's business people coming into the game. I think for a long time, rugby has very much been stuck in its ways. That we can't be seen to do this because we're upsetting rugby values and we're upsetting the old brigade and all that kind of stuff. Whereas now I think we've got different people. We're taking inspiration from the likes of the IPL, the 100, NRL in Australia, the NFL, these type of sports which are huge, huge sports. And we can learn. I remember I played in America briefly. And I remember speaking to one of the MDs of one of the clubs, and they have a big saying over there saying to all their sports clubs, say you're in the entertainment business, not the sports business. Because if a family likes sport and they like your sport in particular, they're going to come anyway. They're going to come, they're going to watch, as long as you've got good product, and they're going to buy the merchandise. But how do I get a family to come who doesn't know anything about the sport and still buy the merchandise and still buy hot dogs and come again? Because you know what it's like over there. You go to a local park and 25% of people are wearing a sporting merchandise. Whereas over here in the UK, it's a bit different. And I think now in the rugby space, we are learning. We're doing big games with light shows. We're getting Rag and Bowman to come and perform. We get Pete Tong. Do you know what I mean? People want more than just a rugby game. And it's how do you give fans that full engagement? Because look, it's not cheap going to Twickenham. It's not cheap going to sporting arenas anymore. But I feel now we're starting to get back on track. We're getting good brands coming into the game. We're thinking, you know what, let's give the fans a spectacle because they want more than just the product. So, look, I don't think we're 100% there yet, but I think there's a lot of ideas, rival leagues coming in, breakaway leagues. If nothing else, it's giving people things to talk about and it's getting eyeballs on the sport, which is what we need because in this country, of course, football's up there. Cricket's probably broken away from rugby. And actually, with the younger generations now, with the YouTubers, with the gamers, there's more markets, paddles coming in. You know what? We're all fighting for a bit of space. So I think we are actually getting back on track. And I think there's a real excitement about rugby once again.
Well, it's a beautiful game. And thanks so much for everything you've done for it and your commitment to it and our country.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Well, Chris, we can't thank you enough for giving us your time and coming in today. It's been a beautiful episode. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. That way, you guarantee to be the first to hear of our incredible upcoming guests. And trust me, you do not want to miss them. Thanks again, and see you next week.